I'd like to declare this meeting open. Kaya Kwaba, Kiji Yunang Nunda Yayara, Yaranga Wadandi Buja. Hello, good to see you all together on Wadandi Buja. Nagalak Kachi Wadandi Yagana Wadandi Buja. I would like to acknowledge the Wadandi people, the traditional owners of Wadandi Buja. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Margaret River Scouts. Thank you for coming tonight. We welcome you. Thank you. Now we move to item 2, attendance. Item 2.2, approved leave of absence, Shire President Julia Meldrum. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Councillors, do I have any disclosures of interest? No, none received. Now I move to item 4, public questions. Do we have any public questions from the gallery tonight?
Let's put the public question opened at 5:31.
Public questions was opened at 5:31.
Being no questions, it closes at 5:31.
And being no questions, we close it at 5:31. Thank you. Item 4.1, response to previous public questions taken on notice. We have none. And item 5, applications for leave of absence. We have none before us. Councillors, I'd like to move to item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Do I have a councillor who'd like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Earl. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillors, let's put that to the vote, please. All those in favour? Thank you. And that was carried 7-0. And item 6.2, special council meeting on the 29th of April. Do I have a councillor who'd be willing to move that? Thank you, Councillor Canal. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Boland. And we'll put that to the vote. Thank you. That was carried 7-0. Item 6.3, special council meeting of the 6th of May 2024. Do I have a councillor who can move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Dath. And a seconder? Councillor Canal. Let's put that to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? And that was carried 7-0. Now we will move to item 7, deputations. So we have a number of deputations this evening, and will be requesting the deputies come forward according to the order that was provided by staff. So the deputations for item 11.2.1, the mobile food policy, the first person I have is Sandy Bullard. So if you would like to come to the lectern and just state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Sandra Bullard. I reside in Dunsborough. My husband and I own Gracie's General Store. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to voice ongoing concerns regarding the mobile food vans within close proximity to Gracie's, potentially with approval to operate within the same hours and operation of the bricks and mortar store. There are approximately 150 homes within the tightly held hamlet of Gracetown. Don't quote me specifically, I'm not 100% sure that there's 150 or 157, but it's thereabouts. Not every home is occupied as a permanent place of residence. The greater majority of homes are a combination of Airbnb, short-term, sprinkled with owners using as a permanent seaside holiday home as and when they desire. If there is no further land to be released within the immediate township of Gracetown, then one presumes no further dwellings will be added. Therefore, business growth is limited within the community itself, unlike Quarramup being the closest town and having a surge in growth and community and small businesses. It's critical for the hamlet of Gracetown to have an operating, functional cafe blended with a general store. We also hold a liquor licence as well. We are the Australia Post receival point, and we support many local artisans and the Bushfire Brigade, Sea Search and Rescue. Gracie's General took on board community feedback from the respondents and all interested parties with the previous AMR Shire Have Your Say forum. Hence the introduction of Cafe Del Mar series, held every Friday evening over the summer months and concluding with an Easter vintage fair. What the respondents' feedback was, they wanted nighttime food availability. Because we are limited with business opportunities, we saw the opportunity to invite mobile food vans operate in partisan with Gracie's General. The support of the dedicated Gracie's crew worked extended hours to support Cafe Del Mar. The mobile food van operators were given a platform to offer their services, and we at Gracie's did not charge them for this opportunity. The combined food operators shared rotational weeks to benefit the success and keep the customers coming back for more delicious eats and treats. The mobile food van operators traded with full cooperation and support from Gracie's and our generous landlords, Ian and Jude. Indeed, the introduction of mobile food vans was welcomed by everyone, and the patronage to the fair was a resounding success. We listened to the feedback, we acted with a positive outcome, we met the community's expectations and offered this service for everyone to enjoy, whether you lived in Gracetown, Quarrumup or a visitor to the region. The mobile food van operators acknowledged working cohesively with the store created a positive outcome. Cross-marketing via public sites such as Facebook and Instagram, which we have a following of over 2,000, and spreading the word organically about the event on Friday evenings. Balance, thought and careful planning with all due considerations for the environment, infrastructure should be the core focus, not whether to introduce mobile food van operators at the expense of the broader community and visitors to the bay. Main Beach car park is more often than not full.
Excuse me. Sorry, Ms. Bully.
Sorry.
Just to let you know, you've got 1 minute left to go, so you might want to wrap up your deputation.
We are a democratic society. Let's focus on real issues with infrastructure moving forward. Create unity, not division. To have or not have a mobile food van pales into insignificance when there is much more that needs doing in the community. We respectfully request the councillors pass the standing proposal and leave as is with no amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call before us Mr. Ian Englert, please.
I hope your stopwatch is going slow.
Thank you, Mr. Englert. If you'd like to give your name and address.
Yes. My name's Ian Englert, and I live in Gracetown, and I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. So good afternoon to councillors and staff. So, as you know, Judith and I have lived, we're long-time Gracetown residents, permanent Gracetown residents, over 42 years now, but not as long as Gracie's. The Gracetown store opened something like 60 years ago and has been servicing the Gracetown residents, absentee landowners, tourists and other needy groups for such a long time. You can buy general food products, takeaway food, fruit, fuel, coffee, spirits, and for as long as you like. And it's also the local post office. The store also supports the local tennis club, fire brigade, and other needy groups. The store is generally opened at 7 o'clock in the morning and closes at 6 o'clock at night, shorter hours as you'd expect in the colder months. A gentleman who I might say has never lived permanently in Gracetown town site and still appears to want to allow food and coffee vans to trade next to the public toilets and change rooms near the beach at Gracetown. And I believe if he gets his way, these vans would be able to operate at the same time as Gracie's. The proposed itinerant vendor, as such, would appear to pay a pittance towards electricity and a mere $1,500 odd a year to the Shire for rent. Compare that to Gracie's $20,000 a year electricity, $9,000 odd to the Shire for rates. And add to this around $240,000 a year for wages, over 20 grand a year for insurances, plus. 2 days ago, I was privy to examine some of Gracie's books, and I feel it's important to let you people know that it would appear their annual outgoings total over $300,000 or pretty close to $350,000 a year. This basically means that they have to make $1,000 a day before they make a dollar. It isn't rocket science to understand Gracie's makes next to nothing in the colder winter months, but they stay open for the local community with their petrol, food, papers and post office, etc. To get through the year, they obviously must make their profits in the warmer summer months. And it's not rocket science to understand, should an itinerant vendor be allowed to trade at the public toilet and change rooms at the beach during the same time as Gracie's, the store's profits would be reduced considerably. Food and coffee is where the profit is, not the post office and fuel. Surely this is obvious and doesn't need to be proved. If their profits are reduced, it also follows staff numbers will have to be reduced to enable the store to stay afloat. This is pure economics and also does not need to be proved. How it's possible someone with, or anybody who with no small business experience could find this hard to understand. We're continually being bombarded by state and federal governments stating small business throughout the country is finding it extremely difficult to survive today. Small business needs to be supported in every way and not hindered. By allowing an itinerant vendor to operate a mere 300 metres from Gracie's would set a precedent, as the nearest other example to the Shire is over 1,000 metres away from the Prevelly store and Prevelly itself with its mega permanent population.
Thank you, Mr Englert. Just to let you know, you have 1 minute left, so you might want to sum up your argument. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. There have been surveys done, and I believe that a lot of the people who live in Gracetown, the 175 odd permanent people, a lot of them were not contacted at all, and I've spoken to a lot of them, and they do not want to see itinerant vendors at the beach that could jeopardise the local store that serves them all year round. Now, councillors, by you allowing an itinerant vendor to trade outside of Gracie's operating hours would be a fair outcome. Otherwise, it really isn't a level playing field. So, councillors, the recommendation you have before you, I believe, is fair and reasonable when you take everything into consideration. And I trust that you will support and adopt the recommendation as it is without any changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Englert. Well done. Thank you. Miss Elizabeth Reid, would you like to come forward? Thank you. Just state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Elizabeth Reid, 193 Juniper Road, Gracetown. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here today in support of the Shire's policy in reference to mobile food vans, specifically Clause 5.6, supporting trade of mobile food vans outside of Gracie's general operating hours. The locality of Gracetown is an exception on the West Coast with constrained potential for development, limiting prospects for economic growth. With 150 residences occupied variably throughout the year, there are simply not enough residents to support more than one food-providing business. Approving additional businesses in a constrained economic environment would be setting up those businesses for inevitable financial hardship and failure. The Gracetown General Store has been operating for over 40 years. It provides valuable services to the community, including Agency for Australia Post, Agency for Gracetown Tennis Club, provider of fuel, provider of daily newspapers, a hub for hikers on the Cape to Cape track, a community notice board, and employer of over 10 local staff. In addition, Gracie's General supports the Gracetown Fire Brigade and Gracetown Sea Surf and Rescue by extending them a line of credit to refuel fire trucks, boats, and jet skis. Gracie's General also supports businesses, artists and musicians through sales and initiatives such as Cafe Del Mar. In addition, supports annual community events such as the Gracetown Kite Festival. As a permanent resident of Gracetown for over 22 years, as a volunteer member of the Gracetown Fire Brigade, as a volunteer member of the Gracetown Oral History Association, and as event founder and organiser of the annual Gracetown Kite Festival and employee at Gracie's General, I strongly support the Shire's MFV policy, specifically Clause 5.6. Thank you.
I'd now like to call before us Eleni Anastopoulos. Thank you. My apologies. Thank you. If you could state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Eleni and I live in Kawarama. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address you today on an issue that has, yet again, become increasingly relevant in our vibrant community, which is the operation of mobile food trucks during business hours of our cherished Gracie's General Store. My name is Eleni, and I ask you all to truly see us come together as a family today and to hear our call for your deep consideration. Have you ever experienced that incredible, full-hearted feeling driving down the hill into the bay and seeing Gracetown in all of its glory? Well, we are fortunate enough to get to experience that every single day. When I first came west and started working at Gracie's in 22, I quickly learnt that my love for this place ran deeper than I ever could have known. And that is all attributed to our community. I can wholeheartedly say that nearly every person I love here, I've been fortunate to meet over the counter at Gracie's General Store. From all of my surrogate parents, brothers, sisters, to my local honey supplier and crazy bush mechanic. It's pretty special, hey? And I can only imagine the multitude of other rich connections that have been made under the same roof since the birth of Gracie's in the 80s. Who knew that a simple little store could bring so much love and life to a place? Well, we do. I stand in front of you today on behalf of our valued team members to ask you to look at the bigger picture of it all. I express the uttermost importance that this workplace brings to us and what jeopardy this agenda could bring to me, our crew, and our radiating community. As a young adult, my generation and I are trying to keep our head above the water every day in the very real and ever-growing cost of living crisis. I've anxiously lived paycheck to paycheck before. I've struggled to afford a roof over my head. I've even created over 20 email addresses just to have one more HelloFresh free-week trial to put food on my plate. Without my job stability, I do not have stability, and we do not have stability. My 2 years of work here has allowed me to create a beautiful life, a life that feels safe, nourishing, and gives me an absolute sense of purpose and self. Us younger generation are vulnerably stepping into adulthood, and we have to pave our own new pathway into this scary climate of evolving challenges. So it's essential for us to maintain financial security, a thriving community network, and a purpose for the sake of our well-being and ultimately our future. We take pride in caring for all walks of life that find themselves in our beautiful region. We bring forth growth for small local businesses, convenience and accessibility for Gracetown residents and holidaymakers, and most of all, a flourishing hub for people to come together. We take our responsibility seriously, providing necessities from a base for Cape to Cape walkers on their journey, to storing the nearest first aid kit and defib for surf break incidents during life or death situations. I believe that the risk of this all being taken away could be real, and all for the excessive motives of an extra coffee machine only hundreds of metres away. Without Gracie's, there would be far-reaching consequences beyond the immediate inconveniences. We need to think big, like how an abrupt loss of accessibility for individuals would only increase carbon footprint and financial strain. And down the track, we would ultimately see a devastating decrease in property value, local sourcing and trading, and sense of community. I full well appreciate and understand that the GCBC plays a fundamental role in uplifting our community, which is why I find it hard to comprehend some individuals' ongoing push to intentionally bring down the heart and soul of our town. I question the objective behind this agenda. Who are they fighting for, or more importantly, who are they fighting against? We have faced a series of demeaning threats and comments via online public platforms. These words cannot be mistaken for feedback and instead...
Excuse me, Eleni, if you could just talk to the item, please. Thank you. Yeah.
This one, sorry.
Yeah.
These words cannot be mistaken for feedback, but instead seen as what they are, as childish and personal attacks. It can be easy to hide behind a screen. Gosh, the kids in my early high school years were relentless.
Eleni, just to let you know, you've got 1 minute, and if you could speak to the item, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I learned long ago, as a part of growing up, that taking a cowardly approach to life does not get you far. So I stand here as a 21-year-old woman to speak my truth to your face. I can confidently recognise certain GCBC representatives lack the morals and ethics that my generation are continuously told to look for in role models. I will not tolerate for this or my team members. As a family, our roots grow strong and deep, intertwining and connecting at the heart of Gracetown. No amount of force can break that bond. Sandy and Dennis, or known to us as Mum and Dad, deserve a world of recognition, appreciation, and everything for what they have done for a community. It takes a lot to fill up a whole town's love cup. So I thank you, committee, for your time and attention that you have given to our worthy fight. I trust that you will find it in your hearts to truly hear our call for your help, for the future of Gracie's, and so much more
Eleni.
depends.
Thank you.
Thank
Time's
you.
up. Thanks very much. Thank you. If I could now call before us Mr. Richard Muirhead, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Richard Muirhead is my name. I live at 18 Seahawk Rest, Gracetown, have lived there for 4 years permanently. Before I start, in my deputation I said I wanted to speak to 2 items, 11.2.1 and 11.2.2. I realise I've only got 5 minutes. I just want to say...
Sorry, Mr. Muirhead, just to confirm, you can speak to this item, and then when I call the following item, you can speak to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, clearly, as we've heard from staff, managers and owners of the infrastructure, this is a very emotional issue. I'm here as president of the Gracetown Quarmut Bay community. We have over 100 members and around 300 affiliated members. When I was first approached when this policy came up by the owners of the store to say the GCBC needed to block this move, my response was, we can't do that, we have to see what our members want. We represent our members. And so we undertook a survey and conducted a survey. I've briefed the Shire on this survey. I suppose in summary, in terms of food vans, we found that 90% of respondents supported the inclusion of mobile food van facilities at the beach, either with no restrictions or with restrictions by days and or times, and those details are available. In terms of coffee vans, we found that 60% of people supported the inclusion of coffee vans, either with no restrictions or with certain restrictions on either all or some busy days, Christmas holidays, Easter, that type of thing. There's clearly a majority that want that, and that's of our members, and that's why I stand here today to put their case. It's not a personal thing, as some people may have indicated. Before going on, I'd like to just point out that Gracie's, me and my family have been using Gracie's for the 42 years we've had a property in Gracetown, which was a family property. It's seen many changes. I've seen many managers operate it, and I've seen it change in many ways. I've also seen it operate successfully with a second restaurant immediately adjacent to it, and both the operations work successfully. I don't understand why suddenly that would be a problem now. The other issue I want to make is that the policy that's here is, as I've said before, and I'll say again, I believe extremely flawed. There's no room in planning policy, and let's make no mistake, this is planning policy, to take into account economic wherewithal or profitability or protection of one operator over another. Indeed, good planning practice clearly defines that is not the role of planning. There's also an issue at risk here if this is to proceed. When will Margaret River food operators object to the food van that's currently sitting down near the river and say, well, Gracetown doesn't have to have one, why should we have one? You set a dangerous precedent, I think, for the entire Shire. It seems to have been forgotten in all of this that while Gracie's is there and they, let me make it very clear, neither me nor no members of the GCBC committee nor any of our members, we all want to see Gracie's thrive and prosper. It's absolutely the case, and all of us go there to buy things that we need to buy, coffees, food, whatever. But I think people have stated that they want choice. They want some competition. They want to be able to enjoy a meal near the beach. They want to be able to enjoy a coffee near the beach.
Mr Muirhead, one more minute left. Thank you.
So I think, I know I've said this before to the Shire, my recommendation is that any issues related to the survival of, or not, of Gracie's, and I don't believe that is at risk here, are covered by proposed clause 5.5. That covers it by the fact that the Shire can ensure there's no conflict. Clause 5.6 is, I believe, completely problematic, probably flies in the face of planning law and may not be sustainable. So I would ask that at least the Shire remove clause 5.6, leave clause 5.5, but also define what is meant by the word conflict in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Muirhead. I'd now like to look at item 7.5, deputations for the Gracetown Infrastructure Plan, and call before us Megan Garnett. Thanks, Megan. If you just want to give your name and...
Yep, sure. Hi, I'm Megan Garnett. I live at 14 Osborne Street in Gracetown, and I'm a permanent resident of the Bay. I'm also coordinator of the Friends of Gracetown and Quarram Bay group and a member of the GCBC. Just want to say a big thank you to the Council and for the Shire for these initial infrastructure plans and priorities. It's really fantastic to see some improvements coming for our small, though highly visited and well-renowned town. From an environmental perspective, I'd like to just touch on several matters. The majority of Shire open space and reserves within Gracetown are severely degraded and weed infested. There are recommendations from the Gracetown Town Site Strategy from 1996, the Gracetown Initiatives from 2008, the Quarram Bay Coastal Management Plan from 2019. These have all included the degraded nature of the Shire reserves, highlighted the need for formalisation of tracks and significant revegetation for local natives. Fire mitigation works have been very heavy-handed with significant clearing of bush. One example of this is the Gracetown village zone across the road from the store, which is an absolute disgraceful mess. The Huzza South Point entry is a weed pit waiting to explode with the recent clearing that has taken place here. Without immediate revegetation works, there will be a further encroachment into the natural bush from the car park overflow during busy surf days. Swimmers or Main Beach has been waiting for love for almost 30 years. The fabulous Adopt a Spot program is tackling the beach foreshore vegetation strip. However, on the other side of the car park, there is damage from last year's illegal party where cars have driven through the vegetation, and now there's also increased foot traffic through this area from the roadside parking on busy days. Please don't tell me that the Friends of Gracetown and Quaramup Bay can deal with these sites. It's kind of like getting volunteers to complete revegetation in the main street of Margaret River. There is also the zone around the hall and the natural bush between the hall and the fire shed that has been extensively cleared for fire mitigation. My understanding is this section of bush between the hall and the fire shed was actually cleared by error. The area behind the hall was also over-cleared, and subsequently the Shire received complaints from myself and the Gracetown Fire Brigade over this matter. It's currently eroding. It blows dirt onto the tennis and basketball courts, making the services unusable, and the culvert washes away with each rain. Lastly, I'd like to raise the use of the water from the natural spring up by North Point boat ramp entrance for the supply to the Swimmers Beach shower and toilet facilities. It is removing groundwater that flows to the remnant wetland next to the boat ramp and potentially drying the natural bush along Quaramup Bay Road, where there has been an area that is significantly drought affected. I know and understand that water supply for these facilities is a difficult task to provide for. However, it's just unsustainable and inappropriate to continue tapping this source, particularly in the light of the past year and the scientific evidence that we are in a drying climate. So my requests are, can we please get a commitment to include the revegetation of the 3 zones of the Gracetown Village Centre, Huzzes and South Point car park entry, and the nature strip between the car park and the road at Swimmers Beach car park to be elevated to a priority 1 within the Gracetown infrastructure plan. These areas wouldn't take a lot of finances to mulch and to plant locally sourced natives. It would be a really quick win that would have fantastic aesthetic benefit to the town site and result in improved weed management.
Hi, Megan. Sorry, just one more minute, please. Thank you.
In relation to the zone between the hall and the fire shed, the Friends of Gracetown and Quaramup Bay, in conjunction with the GCBC and the Gracetown Fire Brigade, would like to re-establish native plants at this site. And with the hope that the Shire could provide the plants, mulch and the groundwork so volunteers can revegetate this area. Regarding the area behind the hall, can we consider inclusion in the infrastructure plan, obviously as a lower priority, the use of this cleared section for overflow parking? This could be done as an alternative to the overflow parking along the back half of Salters Street that is currently in the concept plan. Levelling and gravel here would assist in weed suppression and more organised car parking during events. And finally, can the councillors please commit to a cessation of taking the groundwater from the natural spring by North Point? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you. I'd like to call before us Mr. Muirhead again, please. Thank you.
No rest for the wicked, is there? Look, thank you very much. I didn't think I'd get an extra time. I think, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, the last infrastructure plan for Gracetown was done at the request of Landcorp in 2008. Is that roughly right? Yeah. And we all understood that. Landcorp was going to turn Gracetown into a coastal nirvana. We're going to have underground power, recycled grey water, beautiful footpaths and landscaping, and Landcorp was going to pay to do that. And we're deeply involved in that, and there were those commitments. So everybody waited and waited and waited, and now we know that won't be happening. GCBC is now really, really pleased that my committee and the community with this new plan. It's achieved a couple of key things. We've got prioritisation on what the things you can do and what the community wanted. It's got prioritisation around what you can really afford in the short term, and it's also identified those longer term projects. So I'd like to congratulate the Shire and the staff of the Shire on doing that. We really appreciate it, and we will work closely with you to see those things implemented. The only thing I will mention is, as you know, we've been very active in trying to get the playground up, as has the Shire. The Shire has helped us in many ways, including sponsoring Easter. We now have, with the Shire's funding, over $100,000, and the playground will now happen. Our focus next is on significantly improving the hall, understanding the strains that puts on the Shire's financial situation with respect to maintenance, but we're going to try and look at a way where we can share that cost. So that's a work in progress which we will focus on next year, and that may mean we'd ask you to bring that project forward, but we want to go away and look at what we can do first, as we did stuff with the playground to try and make it happen. But we think this is a fantastic start. We totally endorse it, and the things that Megan presented, we strongly endorse them too. That's a GCBC view, but I think they can probably be built in. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr Muirhead. I now call before us Mr Paul Manners, please. Yeah.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr Manners. If you just want to say your name and address, please.
Yep, sure. Paul Manners, 8 Hill Place, Gracetown. The main reason I wanted to come along today was being a Gracetown resident since 1999. It's been a battle, to say the least. Probably a lot to do with Landcorp, understandable. But yeah, I just wanted to give my thanks, my family's thanks to the council, the Shire workers for the new structure plan. And yeah, we really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Manners. Thank you. We will now move to item 8 for any petitions, and I have none before us. Now item 9, announcements from the presiding member. I'd just like to say it's been a celebration of arts over the last couple of weeks. We had this very successful Readers and Writers Festival of 2024 that was held over the weekend, and it was a wonderful celebration of stories and storytelling with international and national authors inspiring audiences. As the largest regional writers' festival in the state, it demonstrated the depth of the Shire's creative talent and affinity for the arts. The CEO and I have been meeting with a number of ministers. We met with Minister McKirk, Minister Carey and Minister Templeman to advocate fervently for ongoing and sustained support to address the urgent issues facing our community. These include housing, community and mental health services, infrastructure and protection of our natural resources. We also sought support to enable further activation of the arts and creative industries. The Shire has decided to become more active in advocating for the needs of the Shire and to get the government to see us as more than a convenient marketing asset for the state of WA. The pressures on the area are being driven by the rapid population growth, the 4.7 million visitors to the region, the deterioration on the natural environment and the Lewin Naturalist National Park, the pressures on our grassroots, often volunteer services, the lack of housing and the commensurate problems associated with illegal camping. We are really asking the state government to step up. And a person who's been behind this and enabled this is our CEO, Arthur Chiron. Yes, we're all very saddened. Tonight is the final meeting with our acting CEO, Arthur Chiron. We have all benefited greatly from his wealth of experience and passionate efforts to advocate for our community. We thank him for his dedication and hard work. Thank you. I think so. And of course, this weekend, on Saturday, the 20th of May, I encourage all of us to join in the celebrations of the Old Margaret River Hospital centenary, 100 years, at the community centre from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you. I'll now move to item 10, questions from members of which due notice has been given, and I have none before us today. We'll now move to item 11. That's the reports of committees and officer reports. And our first item is item 11.2.1, mobile food van policy. Do I have a councillor who would like to put this on the table? Thank you, Mr. Earl. Councillor Earl.
Apologies. I'd like to move that we defer this item for a further briefing for councillors.
Point of order.
Thank you. Councillor Binks?
Unfortunately, the mover of the motion cannot move a motion to defer.
Thank you.
12.3.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councillor Earl, would you still like to be the mover of the motion? No? Okay, I just need to put this on the books. Can I have a councillor to move this motion? Thank you for bearing with us, Councillor Earl. Seconder, please.
If there's no seconder, it lapses.
Thank you, Councillor Boland.
I wish to move a motion to defer.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Do I have a councillor to second that? Councillor Canal, thank you. We will now defer that motion. We need to put it to a vote.
I can actually speak to that.
You can speak to it. Thank you.
Okay. I am moving to defer this motion. And the reasons that I'm seeking to defer this is because some very valid points have been raised tonight that I think apply to the whole Shire, actually. Gracetown is a very unique part of the Shire, but we have other unique parts of the Shire that will be impacted by mobile food vans, and this particular policy, and we may just need to look at the wording so that some of those other areas will be covered as well. So the motion to defer is so that we can hold a workshop and consider the rest of the wording in the policy. I do like the wording that we have for specifically with respect to Gracetown, but I think we need to reconsider that for the other areas of the whole Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binks.
Now put it to the vote.
I would now like... Okay, I'd now like to put this to the vote. All councillors in favour? Thank you. That was carried 7-0.
Sorry, I may need to clarify this for you. Yeah, councillors, just to clarify, in relation to a procedural motion, which is what Councillor Binks has moved, there is to be no debate on the procedural motion other than the mover of the motion may speak to the motion for not more than 5 minutes. The seconder is not to speak, other than to formally second the motion, and there is no debate on the motion. So that's why it's required to be put.
Thank you for that clarification. We'll now move on to item 11.2.2, the Gracetown Infrastructure Plan. Can I have a councillor move this, please? Just to clarify for the gallery, if you bear with us, this item, the mobile food van policy, will be brought back to council after consideration and further briefing. So most likely at the July meeting. So just so that's clear. And thank you. And we will now move to item 11.2.2, the Gracetown Infrastructure Plan. Do I have a councillor to move this? Thank you, Councillor Binks. And Councillor Earl, thank you. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I do have a question for Mr. Logan, though. One of the deputies, Megan, mentioned some items that she would like to see elevated to priority 1 projects. What were those items?
Excuse me, it was, as far as I can recall, and we may need to seek to get clarification from the presenter, but it was revegetation of the area directly across the road from the store, revegetation around the Huzzers entry, revegetation of an area that was cleared for fuel mitigation adjacent to the Gracetown Hall, and there was a supplementary consideration around the water take for the water tank.
And am I correct in understanding that when we conduct a review, that if we want to see those items elevated, we can do that at that stage?
That's true.
Thank you. Councillors, listen, when we moved this motion to have a working group formed and for a date to be put on the, and some costings on the formation of a plan for Gracetown, it was a great opportunity for us to be working in collaboration with the community to achieve the outcomes that were sought by the community. And this is a model that we can use in other areas in the Shire as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that happen. I'm very pleased to see this come about, and thanks to the Shire staff for fulfilling what Council has requested so well. I really appreciate that. So I don't really have much more to say about this other than I commend this to you, and would seek to consider this way of operating with, with the other communities that we have within the Shire, and ask for your vote of support. Thank you.
Do I have any other councillors who'd like? Councillor Earl as the second. Yeah, Councillor Earl. Any other councillors? Councillor Boland?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Yes, I'm supportive of the recommendation. I just wanted to seek a little bit of clarity around those things that were raised by Megan Garnett. We probably don't need to go back to her, but I heard that there were 3 issues regarding degraded vegetation, which was near the store, near Huzzers, and near the car park. And then there are other things that she was seeking us to have a look at, which was overflow parking and no taking of the water from the natural spring. I was thinking around whether we incorporate those in the policy tonight, but that's probably going to be a little bit difficult to do that on the run. But I don't think it would be difficult for us to look at those issues as well while we're moving with the infrastructure plan, because I think it's time for us to go forward with this plan. It's gone through quite a bit of work. It's had quite a few years in its gestation, and we're finally getting to this stage. So I'm very happy to see it going forward. And then I think there are just some other things that have been raised that we should be aware of and look at as well. And what we're doing tonight doesn't preclude us looking at those things, I wouldn't have thought. So yes, but very pleased to see this getting to this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. I guess I just have a question myself to the Director. Are we able to include some of those concerns as part of the plan?
Just through the chair, as Councillor Boland pointed out, it's probably a little bit difficult to sort of embed those things on the fly. Some of them are in the plan to a degree, like revegetation of the area across the road from the Gracie store, as an example, and then some of the other areas, the degraded areas that we're proposing to protect with hard infrastructure through this plan, would provide an opportunity for us to revegetate at the same time. So Without going in and kind of changing the plan off the cuff, what I would say is we certainly take those things on board, and I think there's an opportunity for us to have some further discussion about them and work on the timing, and we'd be more than happy to talk with you about that through the process of implementation.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any further questions or would anyone else like to speak for or against this motion? No? Thank you. Well, let's put this to the vote then, please. All those in favour? Thank you, and that was carried successfully, 7-0. We now move to item 11.3.1, the 2024-25 differential rates and minimum payments for public comment. Do I have a councillor who'd like to put this on the floor, please? Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Diath. Councillor Earl.
Thank you. I do understand there's a couple of amendments that may be made. I'm happy for those to come in first.
Councillor Diath, would you like to put forward your amendment?
Yes, I would like to adopt the administration's recommendations, but with a possible amendment of requesting that the CEO incorporates the following in the 2024-25 schedule of fees and charges. A quarterly rates instalment administration fee of $0, reduced from $8.50. B, a rate special arrangement administrative fee of $0, reduced from $65.50. C, a rates instalment interest charge of 5%, reduced from 5.5.
Councillors, I just noticed we need a seconder for this amendment. Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Diath, would you like to talk to this amendment?
Yeah, so we understand at the moment that a lot of our community, well, some of our community members are struggling with the cost of living crisis, and this is small businesses and families. And we understand that we need to do moderate rate increases to make sure there's no lag for future councils with not having rate increases. So the idea of reducing some of the fees and charges is so that the people who are most affected by the rates rise aren't again burdened on top for not being able to pay their rates in a lump sum.
Thank you, Councillor Diath. Councillor Earl? Are there any other councillors who would like to talk to this motion? No? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Earl. Oh, sorry, Councillor Canal.
Yeah, no, look, I'm supportive of the amendment, and I'm also, I guess as a small business owner, I'm one of those people that probably hides under the table when the rates come in every year, and you look at the envelope, too scared to open it. We're all ratepayers, and we also understand the other side of it, why we need to charge the rates and why we need the increase, because if we don't have the increase, then we leave a legacy to future generations of much higher increases. So, yeah, I see it from both sides of the fence, and I'm probably still going to be hiding under the desk when it comes in this year. But, yeah, that's just how it is, and it's like every other bill that we get, they're all going up. But at least I understand why this one is, so, yeah.
Thank you, councillors. Would anyone else like to speak to that? No. Thank you. I commend this item and this amendment and agree with the previous speakers. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that was carried 7-0. That now becomes part of the substantive motion. And Councillor Earl, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you very much, and didn't need to speak to the amendment before, adequately done by the new councillor across the room, so well done. But I do support that, but I also support the 4.9% that we need to do. The pressures on the Shire continue to grow. We need to make sure that we grow our income to provide the services that our community desperately needs, and the further services that the pressures onto us all the time. You know, we do continue to try to make the savings where we can, but if we don't put our rates up, it will come back to haunt us down the track. And if you look across a lot of other shires, particularly country shires, who haven't done the hard yards in the past of getting the rates up, then you'll see that they're in a lot of trouble. When I came into council, which is, I'm in my 15th year now, so we were slated for an 8 or 9% rise about then. So, and that was because councils previously probably hadn't quite got to where we needed to be. And no disrespect to them, that's the way it was. But this is a rapidly growing area with so much pressure on us. We need to make sure we've got rates to cover what we need to do. So, yeah, I'm very supportive of it.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Diath?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the staff for doing their thorough reviews and talking us all through it. Obviously, there was a lot of questions because I'm new at this, so thank you very much to the administration for allowing me to get my head around the rates. I do agree with Councillor Earl. It is, and also what Councillor Kenner said before, it is a difficult time. You know, there has been a cost of living increase, but then the CPI has gone up. The cost of local government price index has risen, and that is based on metropolitan prices. So I understand that probably needs to be higher for the country area. It is probably more than the 3.9%. So I see our rate increase is just purely covering the cost, which is why we've included the amendment. But I agree with what the administration has recommended.
Thank you, Councillor Diath. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this motion? Thank you. Let's put this item to the vote, please. All those in favour? Thank you. That was carried 7-0. I'd now like to move to item 11.3.2, list of payments for April 2024. Do I have a councillor who will move this? Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Earl. Councillor Boland, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Earl? No, thank you. So can we please put that to the vote, councillors? And that was carried 7-0. We now move to item 11.3.3, review of delegations. Do I have a councillor to move this? Thank you, Councillor Earl. You're working hard tonight. Do I have a councillor to second? Thank you, Councillor Canal. No? Can we please put that to the vote? All those in favour? And that was carried 7-0. We now move to item 11.3.4, financial activity statement for March 2024. Councillor Earl, thank you. Councillor Jones? No? No, thank you. So can we please put that to the vote? All those in favour? And that was carried 7-0. We'll now move to item 11.3.5, the long-term financial plan 2024 to 2025 to 2033-34. Do I have a councillor to move this? Councillor Binks, and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Canal. Councillor Binks.
I moved as written, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Canal? Thank you. Councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Thank you. That was carried unanimously, 7-0. I now move to item 11.3.6, Councillor Information Sessions Policy Review. Do I have a councillor to move this? Councillor Earl, and seconded by Councillor Jones. Thank you. Councillor Earl? Councillor Jones? No, thank you. Let's put that to the vote, please, councillors. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That was carried 7-0. We now move to item 12, motions from members of which previous notice has been given, and I have none. Item 13, motions for consideration at next meeting, and I have none. We have no new business of an urgent nature at item 14. Item 15, we have no confidential business. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Just before you do close, I'd just like to thank the acting CEO for his last couple of months here. It's been a breath of fresh air. Great to work with you over that time, and I think we've all learnt a lot. You've guided us through the process of getting a new CEO. You did that admirably. And I just wish you all the best on your holidays and your travels over to Greece and your few months over there. So, from my point of view, and I believe from the rest of the council, thank you very much. And well done.
May I respond? Please.
Councillors, I'm humbled. I'm humbled by what you've said. I'm humbled by the fact that you've given me the opportunity to work with you and for the community. And people would know something about the story of the Chirons when my father, when he came from Greece in 1952, settled at Quaremup with my uncle Athanasius Chiron, who I'm named after, and settled on the farm there at Treeton. And so it's I think, what did Nick say? History rhymes, is that right? It doesn't repeat it, so history rhymes. What a fantastic rhyme to have come to this area, worked with this council, and worked with the people who I would regard as an absolute pleasure to work with. Every single one of you has been an absolute pleasure, and to work with the staff and to establish relationships with members of the community, it has been fantastic. So thank you very much for the privilege. I will forever remember this time. So thank you.
Thank you. I can't top that. Thank you so much. We've been so lucky, and we wish you all the best, and we hope to call on you again, Arthur. Thank you. I will now close the meeting at 6:32. Thank you.